Good morning, students. So yesterday we already did all the reactions of haloalkanes and haloarenes. That was nucleophilic substitution reactions. In haloarenes, we found that the rate of reactivity was less. That was the reason why we had only one nucleophilic substitution reaction, and that was Dow's process, if you remember. Dow's process, when we did the reaction, it was done under drastic conditions. It was 620 Kelvin and the pressure was 300 atmospheric pressures. So now we'll move on to the next reactions that the haloarenes show, and they are electrophilic substitution reactions. That is electrophile coming and getting attached to the benzene ring. So in that case, we have mainly, every time we read electrophilic substitution reactions, we have basically 5 reactions that take place. First would be halogenation. Second will be nitration, then you have sulfonation, then Friedel-Crafts alkylation and Friedel-Crafts acylation. So these are the 5 reactions that we will always study when we are going to study electrophilic substitution reactions. That means what? Addition of a electrophile. So coming to halogenation reaction. Before we start on with this, we should know that chlorobenzene is ortho-para-directing or meta-directing. So we should know what we mean by ortho-para-directing and meta-directing. All the groups which are ortho-para-directing, they redirect the coming group to ortho and para positions. They are known as ortho-para-directing groups, and the meta-directing group means the coming group will be coming on the meta position and get attached to it. So coming to chlorobenzene, we see that there are 3 lone pairs. So 3 lone pairs, when they come inside, they show resonance. So it is a ortho-para-directing group. Now one thing which is very important in this, you should know this, that there are 2 effects which are simultaneously taking place in this. One is minus I effect, that is the lone pair, due to the electronegativity of chlorine, is attracted towards the chlorine atom. So the electron being pulled up, and the ring is also showing plus R effect. So what happens is, the net resultant is this: due to this plus R, this is ortho-para directing, but because of this minus I, it is deactivated. So it is a deactivated ring. So all the reactions that take place will be taking place under drastic conditions. So whenever we have to do the nuclear chain halogenation, that is, you have to attach chlorine to the nucleus, we do it in the presence of a catalyst, that is anhydrous FeCl3. So what will happen? You will get once ortho product, because they have intermolecular, this interelectronic repulsion. So this is minor, less. Plus 1 would be para isomer. So para isomer is 1 chloride here, 1 chloride here. This will be the major product because it is more stable. So halogenation is addition of halogen. We always attach halogen to the ring in the presence of a catalyst. That catalyst is always is a Lewis acid. We mean to say by Lewis acid that which can take a lone pair of electrons. So Lewis acids, you add Cl2, a 1 time ortho product and 1 time para, right? So that is halogenation. Coming to the next reaction, that is nitration. So we'll just study the second reaction, that is nitration. Now we are talking of electrophilic reactions. So we say that we have to have an electrophile. Anything that has a positive charge will act as a electrophile. So that means what? We have to generate an electrophile from HNO3. So if you react only concentrated nitric acid, it will give you H plus and NO3 minus, which is not an electrophile. So what we do is, we react it with concentrated H2SO4. So we will always use this mixture, and the result is you get nitronium ion. So nitronium ion has a positive charge, That means what? Because of this positive charge, the nitronium ion will behave as an electrophile and will go and get attached to the benzene ring. Now again, because you know the halogen is ortho para directing, one time a ortho isomer, the second time a para isomer. So if you react chlorobenzene, the reagent for nitration conc HNO3 oblique conc H2SO4. So one time ortho and one time para. So that is the product. Coming to the third reaction, but before we proceed on, we will just write the name for this. I've already discussed when we do the nomenclature, you start doing the numbering from the higher priority group. So higher priority is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this will be 1 chloro, 2 nitrobenzene. If you have to write the name for this, start the numbering from higher priority group. So this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this becomes 1 chloro, 4 nitrobenzene. So that is nitration. Coming to the third electrophilic substitution reaction, we will go to sulfonation. So nitration, only two things were important, that is it should take place in the presence of concentrated H2SO4 so that you generate nitronium ion, and always the nitronium ion will get attached on the ortho position and para position, right? Coming to sulfonation. Sulfonation, we talk of the reagent, because this is a deactivated group. Chlorobenzene is a deactivated group. For sulfonation, we take conc H2SO4 or we take fuming H2SO4, also known as oleum. So what we do is chlorobenzene, conc H2SO4, one time ortho and the second time para. Now what is very important is the name. This name is very important. If you want to write the name, your priority group will always be sulfonic because it is highest in the priority order. So what we will do is do the numbering from here. Now this is 1, you can write this 2 and this 2. From whichever side you have the other functional group nearer, you will do the numbering from that side only. So this becomes 1, this becomes 2, this becomes 3. So it will become 2 chloro. You can write 1 or you can skip 1 benzene sulfonic acid. So just assume what will be the name for this. Again, the same way, you will start numbering from the higher priority group. So numbering from this 1, 2, 3 and 4. It will become 4 chloro benzene sulfonic acid. Right? So that is sulfonation. So we studied electrophilic substitution. I told you there are 5 reactions. We have done halogenation. The reagents will stay always the same. Only the conditions will differ from compounds to compounds. So because haloalkanes are ortho-para directing group and they are deactivated, so we are using drastic conditions. So halogenation, then we had nitration, then we had sulfonation, and then the next comes Friedel-Crafts alkylation and Friedel-Crafts acylation. That we will just see. So what I'll do is I'll systematically keep clicking the pictures. One day I'll be sending you method of preparation, the other day I'll send you chemical reactions, and one day I'll send you electrophilic reactions. those pages you have to sort out and write properly all the reactions. Anything which is not in those pages, you can write it from what I am teaching on the board. So comes the next reaction that we will just categorize as 4. We call it as Friedel-Crafts reaction. Friedel-Crafts reaction can again be of two types. It can be Friedel-Crafts alkylation or Friedel-Crafts acylation. We react this chlorobenzene with methyl chloride in the presence of anhydrous AlCl3. This reaction, this catalyst is always fixed. What will happen? You break this, you take out hydrogen, one time ortho and one time para product. So this will be one time ortho and one time para. Coming to the second one, that is Friedel-Crafts acylation. If I take chlorobenzene, now word acylation means this is alkyl halide, this is acyl chloride. So how we write acyl? This group will be known as acyl. This is acyl chloride. Same way, this group to be attached, one hydrogen you will take from here, attached. So that it always takes place in presence of anhydrous AlCl3, and then one time ortho Cl CO CH3 and Cl CO CH3, right? So one time ortho, one time para. Only difference is once you have just attached a alkyl group, in the second case you have attached a acyl group in this case, right? Now what is very important is that in this case both they have a definite mechanism. Now what is the name for this? That name is very important. So we will just talk of this name first. I'll write it here so that it becomes very much visible to you. Cl CO CH3. Now see, this is acetophenone. So numbering would be 1, 2. So it is 2-chloro. This is aceto group and this is phenol. So this becomes 2-chloro acetophenone. Or you can write, this is 2-chloro acetophenone. Likewise, you can write the name for this 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-chloroacetophenone, like that. So you can just write the name for this 1-chloroacetophenone, and this is 4-chloroacetophenone. You can just write the name, and then in case of this, the numbering will start from the higher priority group. So this will be 1, this will be 2. So we will write 2-methyl. We will write alphabetically 1-chloro, 2-methyl benzene, or you can write methyl benzene also as toluene, right? So that is how we write the numbering. So for writing the names, what is very important is you should know which is higher priority group and which is lower priority group. So basically the acid groups comes as the highest priority group, sulfonic acid, then carboxylic acids, then comes acetone, ketone, then comes alcohol, then comes halides, then comes methyl group. So that is a basic order, but the right order is given in NCERT. You have to learn the order from there so that you are comfortable in writing the name of benzene ring compound. So these are all electrophilic reactions. So 5 reactions we have studied. Now we'll come to the few more reactions that are there for haloarenes, reaction with metals. So we'll just that. So we are coming to the second class of reactions. Reactions with metal. The first reaction we have done like that, Wood's reaction, if you remember. You take RX and react it with sodium metal, you get a alkane which is double the number of the original alkane, is haloalkane. So same way we will just write a haloarine, treat it with sodium. It will give you a compound in presence of dry ether. You will get a compound like this. We call it biphenyl. Very important conversion. So this is haloalkane. It can be chlorobenzene, bromobenzene. The name of this reaction is known as Fittig reaction. We call it as Fittig reaction. If instead of this haloarine, one side I take a haloarine and the other side I take a straight chain. In presence of dry ether, I already told you why we don't use water in this case. It will give you something like this. Toluene. This is toluene. This reaction is known as Wurtz-Fittig reaction. So again, you can just see that there are basically three types of reactions. You are doing it with a straight chain. We call it Wurtz reaction. Double the number. We don't use it for odd number of carbon. We use it for even number of carbon. If you use instead of that a ring, haloarine, we will name the reaction as Fittig reaction. And if you have one straight chain and one ring, we will call it as Wurtz-Fittig reaction. Right? All the reactions are with metals, so we keep it under the class reaction with metals. Right? So coming to the next reaction, again we continue with this only. This was the first reaction. Coming to the second one. If you treat an alkyl halide with lithium, so you will get alkyl lithium. So if you treat CBr with lithium in presence of dry ether, you will get something like this. So we will call it as phenyl lithium. This is phenyl group, so we call it as phenyl lithium. So I hope we have come across all the reactions. One more reaction with magnesium that I have left. Same way like we did in straight chain, in the presence of dry ether, so you will get a ring chain Grignard reagent, Mg, a ring chain Grignard reagent. So all will give you organometallic compounds, which are again very important. It will give you further alkanes, isn't it? So that we studied in the straight chain also. So all the reactions, then we will move on to, you can also do the reduction. This is the third reaction, reduction. If you reduce chlorobenzene in presence of nascent hydrogen, this nascent hydrogen nickel platinum alloy, if you take, so you can get a alkane. That's reduction. Or you can use sodium. This reaction is nickel aluminium alloy. In presence of NaOH. So we'll give you a reduction product. You will again get benzene. So all these reactions are very important, and so we complete the reactions of haloarenes. Coming to nucleophilic substitution reaction, then we did electrophilic substitution reaction, and then we did reactions with metals, right? Now we come to, this is the second part of the chapter that is over. We come to the third part of the chapter. We talked about stereochemistry. So what we mean by stereochemistry? So all the reactions are very basic. I've tried to take all the reactions in first chapter so that you get a knack of writing it again and again. So when we will come across the same reaction in the upcoming chapters, we will just say that we have done it and we will write it again, so that again and again you practice and you will be very confident in writing the reactions. So these are the basic reactions. I've tried my utmost not to leave any reaction. So just practice these reactions. So we are coming to stereochemistry. So coming to stereochemistry, that is arrangement in space. So that is the alignment in 3 dimension. We talk about the arrangement of any molecule in space. So that is known as stereochemistry. So anything that, how do we know that it is a stereoisomer? That we can only know when we take the help of some radiations or some light, right? So in this case, which light we'll be using will be known as PPL, plane polarized light. We call it plane polarized light. How do we get PPL? So for getting PPL, the normal light having transverse waves and longitudinal waves both. This type of light, its normal light, is passed through Nicol prism. Nicol prism is nothing but it is made up of calcite ore, that is calcium carbonate. So once you pass it through Nicol prism, what will happen? It will absorb one radiations and it will only give you the radiations in one direction. That type of light is known as plane polarized light. So the light coming after Nicol prism is known as plane polarized light. This you have to put on the organic substance. If the light does not move at all, if the light radiations are the same, we call it as that the compound is optically inactive. It has not done anything to the light. But if the light moves, it is a straight wave, moves through right or left, we will call it as optically active compound. So this organic substance will either move PPL towards right. In that case, we call it as dextrorotatory. Dextrorotatory, also shown by plus. If the PPL moves towards left, we call it minus, we call it levorotatory. Right? So that means what? The optical activity is, we can know about the optical activity only with the help of plane polarized light. If the light moves towards right hand side, and where do we see the rotation? This is known as optical rotation. It is only seen through a spectrometer. You cannot see it in air like this. You have to see the angle in a spectrometer in which we see the optical rotation. So if you see the light bending towards the right, we will call it as dextrorotatory. If you see the light moving towards the left, we will call it as levorotatory. Right? And then I hope you understood what is PPL, that is plane polarized light. Now, why does this optical activity, from where does this optical activity come? So this optical activity comes from asymmetrical structures. Now we need to understand what is asymmetrical structures. So we'll just move on to the next. So we will just move on to what is asymmetrical structures. If you write a 0 and put a plane mirror, you will see the image exactly like this, symmetrical structure. But if you write K and you see it through the mirror, because of the symmetry, it is not symmetrical. If you put a hand like this, the hand which will come on this side will be like this. So that means what? There are some structures which are not symmetrical. If you see their mirror image, it will not be same. Such structures are known as asymmetrical structures. Now in chemistry, from where does this asymmetry comes? So we have a carbon chain. So that asymmetry will come whenever you attach 4 different groups on one single carbon. right? So we have asymmetric carbon or chiral carbon, right? So we'll just talk about this asymmetrical structure in chemistry. So we will have a structure like this, say carbon attached to bromine. One side is methyl, one side is ethyl. Can you see this? This carbon, 3 hydrogen, one side this. This carbon, 2 hydrogen, one side this, one side this. This carbon, 1 bromine, 1 methyl, 1 iodide, 1 this. Asymmetric carbon. So we will always show asymmetric carbon by a asterisk. Is always shown by a star asterisk. Asymmetrical carbon is also known as stereocenter. Also known as chiral carbon. So what is the basic technique of knowing is there any chiral carbon? Just see, are the 4 groups which are attached to the carbon different or same? If 2 groups are same, it is not chiral. If you see all the 4 groups different, that means it is a chiral carbon, and that molecule will show you optical activity, right? So that is very important. We will just talk about this optical activity and dextrorotatory and levorotatory. And I'll just post you all the definitions for PPL, for asymmetric carbon, what do you mean by asymmetrical structures, etc. Right? Now we'll just talk about this optical isomers. We'll talk about optical isomers. Now optical isomers, we will talk about if your carbon chain is optically active and then you have a difference in the movement of light. One isomer moves the light to the right side, another isomer moves the light to the left hand side. We will call them as optical isomers. So we'll just talk about optical isomers. So optical isomers can either be enantiomers. Now what are enantiomers? Enantiomers are nothing but mirror image of each other. They are optically active, non-superimposable mirror images. Now what we mean by this? Say I have written a compound like this. Right? And then you put a mirror. It will get laterally inversed. You will get a structure like this. You don't change this and this because the plane of symmetry is like this. This will become this side, this will come this side. Inverted. Now this are optically, if you keep this structure on this, the iodide will come this side. That means they cannot be superimposed, cannot be kept over one another. So enantiomers are nothing but non-superimposable mirror images. So because they differ in the optical activity, they are optical isomers. And what type of optical isomers? They are enantiomers. Enantiomers means they are non-superimposable and they differ in the optical activity and they are mirror images of each other. But if they are not mirror images, they are not related by a mirror in any form, then in that case the optical isomers are optical isomers, but they are not known as enantiomers because they don't have any mirror association. They will be known as distereomers. So coming to the next type of optical isomers, say I have an example like this CH3, CH2, this is Br, this is iodine, this is CH3. You have a mirror, but you have a structure like this. This is Br, this is CH3, this is CH2, CH3, this is iodine. See, nothing related to mirror. There is no inversion. They are not optical. They are not mirror images. But the formula is same. And they are showing different optical activity. So they are optical isomers. But they don't have any mirror relation. So that type of isomers will be known as distereomers. So we'll call it as that. So those examples which do not have any mirror connection in between them, so we call them as diastereomers. So in stereochemistry, you need to know what is PPL, what is dextrorotatory, what is levorotatory, what are optical isomers, and how we generate PPL. Then what are the type of optical isomers like diastereomers, enantiomers. Then one more will come. We will just talk about anomers also when we'll study carbohydrates, right? So that is all about stereochemistry. You should be comfortable in knowing these basic definitions, and you should understand the basic concept. You should be able to take out which is an isomer optically active, which is the chiral carbon. You should be able to point out. So that is very important. Now one thing more in this, we will just talk about in SN1 and SN2, we talked about Walden inversion and racemic mixture, that we will just see. So that will be the last thing that we have to do in this. When we talked about SN2 mechanism, it was Rx getting attached to nucleophile. You have Rn. You can see the attack of nucleophile is always from the back side. This is known as Walden inversion. But when we say it is a 3-degree carbon, so I told you it will break and you will get a carbocation. This carbocation, the nucleophile can come via this, can come via this, anywhere. So it can make 50% dextro form, we will write dextro as plus, and 50% levo form depending on from where the nucleophile is coming and getting attached. So this 50% dextro form and 50% levo form makes racemic mixture. Now this is 3-degree carbon, you have this happening. 1-degree carbon, you have this happening. So what about 2-degree? 2-degree, it will retain the configuration as it is. Just remove the nucleophile and attach it. We call it retention of configuration. So 3 things can happen. It can either get inverted, Walden inversion, or it can show you a formation of dextro-levo optical isomers form. We call it as formation of racemic mixture. This is known as racemic mixture. Or if it is 2-degree, then we call it as retention of configuration. Right? So the whole chapter of haloalkanes is over.